Hey guys, it's Jacqueline over here at Homeschool Hangout, and it is time to file your PSA. And if you don't know what a PSA is, it is a private school affidavit that is required of private homeschoolers in the state of California. Now, your PSA can be filed one of two ways. You can be part of a larger group that files the PSA for you, or you file the PSA yourself. And I am going to walk through basically this year's PSA. And I'm looking at my computer screen, so if I'm looking down, I apologize. If you like these kinds of how-to walk-through videos, do me a favor, thumbs up and like it. And separately, if you would like to be able to ask me questions while I am doing this live, please join me in one of my 2 live streams that I'm going to be doing. The signups are down on the bottom along with all the details, but it's unnecessary. You can totally do this on your own, but if you have some questions or just would like me next to you when you do it, feel free. But let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the website. Simple as that. There will be a link in the bottom, but it is www.cde.ca.gov/PSA. First page, it basically says you can only enroll students who are not in another full-time public or private school for elementary or secondary, any grades, kindergarten through grade 12. It also says in here, not on this page, but somewhere else, you cannot sign a child up who is younger than 4 years and 9 months. You legally do not have to school your children until they are 6 by September 1st. But yeah, if your kid is 3, that's a preschool, and there are different rules and regulations and all of that. So this is only for kindergarten up. So let's keep going. Basically, you're saying this is a full-time school. It is not supplemental or tutorial. It is, if you only teach one subject, like a foreign language or driver's education, this is not for you. If you do only preschool, transitional kindergarten, or to students younger than 4 years, 9 months, not for you. If you don't have any students yet enrolled, not for you. In other words, if you're an ambitious parent like I was and going, oh, I'm going to be homeschooling my kids in 3 years, no, not for you, sorry. Offers a high school diploma but does not provide instruction in several branches of studies as outlined, not for you. So in other words, like if you are doing a test or some sort of evaluation to decide if they're ready for a high school diploma, this isn't for you because you're not a school. So prior to starting this process, ensure that you've all the required information and all that good stuff. So we're going to get into the next and previous buttons down at the bottom. Are you a full-time private school? Yes, indeed I am. Next. Did you file an affidavit last year, 2021, 2022? You can say yes and proceed with last year's information, or no, go forward with the blank. Even if you filed last year, if you don't have access to the email you used or any of that stuff, you're changing the name, whatever, you can say no. There's not a problem. You just won't pre-fill it out for you. So I'm going to say no here. Even if it's all the same information, if you're like, I didn't get the email, so I can't do it, then say no, it's not a big deal. So we're going to start with the name of the school. And I have to basically type stuff in to keep going through the process, so I'm going through the motions. CDS code, that is only if you have 6 or more students. So if you have less than that, don't worry. And so, like for me, it's not applicable. County, you just put your county in, wherever you live. Then your district. Now, for many of us, our county and our district have the same name. That isn't always the case. So pick that. I'm kind of stumbling today, sorry. School type, I was always recommended to put in coeducational regardless. And that is a personal choice. That is what I do. And I have a variety of genders in my home. So school accommodations. You are a day-only school. I understand they live there. I've heard rumors. Parents have children living at home. But a residential boarding school has different things that can come with it, and it flags things differently. So your school is considered a day school. I understand the mentality. We do school all the time, and they live here. But you're a day school. Do you provide special education? This is having to do with students who have an existing IEP or an evaluation, and I don't know what else comes with that. So I always say no because none of my children have an IEP and I'm not going through that. But it kind of means that you are carrying out an IEP, and IEPs are individual, I think it's individual education programs, but it could be evaluations. Yes, individualized education plans. And in many ways, those are from the state of California, even though schools tend to issue them. So if you have a special ed student at home, choose yes. Do you provide a high school diploma? I do, indeed I do. Now, I did not start clicking this until my students started getting to high school graduation age. So the first year I had a high school senior, I said yes. Once you have someone graduate within a year, you should still say yes. And when I say that, I mean, if I said no last year, but I granted a high school diploma the previous year, it's wonky. And the system will flag you and say, you couldn't have granted it if you didn't offer it. So yeah, your low grade, you literally just put in the youngest age, and the high grade, your highest one. Now you can do kindergarten through 12th. That's up to you. I literally put my low grade to my high grade. Personal choice. I always choose non-religious. Yes, I am a religious person. For those of you who are homeschooling because you don't like people watching you, it will flag you. And when they start pulling things, it'll say, oh, we have all these religious schools and we have all these non-religious schools. I don't know that anything's ever done with it, but I was always advised to say you're a non-religious school and just keep going. Next. My physical address. So we're going to say 123 Cherry Tree Lane. And I'm going to pick a city. I'm going to pick a zip, California. If you are not in California, this reminds me, I got an email recently of somebody saying, we're not in California, but California is our permanent address. So like maybe they're traveling. I don't know. I didn't ask details. Should I still file? And the answer is no, because you have to be here to educate your child here. Now, your mailing address is where you just get mail. It can be the same address, but it can also be different, and that can be somewhere else, I believe. Let me check real quick. Yes. For me, it's the same, so I always just copy it over. Here, you put in your phone number, school contact information. This is you. And a fax number, if you have it, I don't. So I never put one in, but you do need a phone number and an email. The website is not your website. If you're like me and I own a business, it is a school website. So if you are part of a larger group that is filing, and you're filing on behalf of a whole bunch of other people, and you have a website, this is where that would go. A lot of I think they're called PSSPs, would qualify. I will just tell you, if you're putting in a fake phone number, it knows the 555 trick. Oh, bloody heck. It wants a real phone number. There we go. Let's see. Has the school's name changed since the last filing an affidavit? So if you are one of the many people I know who have a very cute elementary school name, and then you change it as they get older, and then you change it again, this is where you would just enter the last one. So it's not a big deal, but basically you just put the last name. And even if you're just updating the information, it gives you this option too. You just put in your new name. If you have changed school districts, you would put in for the next question. They don't ask what your old address is. They just want to know if you've changed districts, because that's one of their filing systems. Next. Here you will put in your youngest ages. This is the student ages. You're not really giving any information. You are saying, like, let's say I've got a 6-year-old who's 0 months. And then my oldest, let's say, is 17. And you give your oldest in a flat and your youngest in months. I find that kind of amusing, but Then next, you're going to put down your enrollment, and you just put down how many students you have in each grade. Just a hint, it should match how many kids you're homeschooling. I have 4 children living at home. I am only homeschooling 3. So when I put in all my numbers, they need to match 3. Report the number of students who graduated from 12th grade in the previous year. I'm going to say 0. I didn't have any last year. Now we're going to get down to number of staff. And this is the number of staff employed by the school. Does not mean you get a paycheck, unfortunately. But full-time teachers, I always put 1. I put in 1 part-time teacher because I do a work permit through the year. If you filed your affidavit and added that part-time teacher later, it wasn't a big deal. But if you know you're going to be issuing a work permit, I do a part-time teacher, and literally I usually do somebody my kids have babysat for or worked under, because then we just call them the work experience teacher, and the only thing they do is sign their work permit. And then I always say we have 1 administrator. My husband is the principal, but I don't count him as staff. So now we're going to go into site administrator. I always put all my information here. And just going through, you can put your extension if you've got one. You can put a title. You have to put a title, so I put administrator. Then you get director or principal officer. That can literally be the same person. I personally always put my husband. I like the safety of having both parents' names on all legal school records like that, just in case something happens to me. He can step in. I'm motioning over there because he's sitting over there on his computer watching something. If he needs to step in for any reason, I can't. I get a full-time job and we change who stays home. Whatever. I like both of our names on it. But it is not a requirement. And it's always cute when, you tell people that you sleep with the principal. And so next is school records. This is going to be 2 different pieces of information. The first piece of information is just who to contact. And I always put me. My husband doesn't want to talk to anybody anyways, let's be honest. And you have to put your title. Like I said, I always put administrator. We could call me lots of fancy titles, but I don't care. Then the record's location. That can be a different place. So if you have a storage unit or something like that where you actually keep them, you can put that there. And it says, I acknowledge that the above mentioned records are maintained at the address stated and are true and accurate. Now, on this page, the other things it talks about is the records required by ECE 48222. That's another video for another day. And the courses of study offered by the institution, so all the big subjects, and the names of addresses, including city and street of its faculty, together with the record of educational qualifications for each. I always say just throw a resume in there. That's it. It's nothing official. Your record, what you would tell somebody to get a job. You don't need transcripts. You don't need any of that. I happen to have transcripts in my home for all of us, but that's just because I have all of our records here, because that's who I am. And so you are acknowledging this. Remember, you are filing an affidavit. Now, I'm not giving legal advice. This is not legal advice. This is based on my experience and my reading of the education code. But you are signing an affidavit, and that is I believe, a crime if you lie on it willfully. It's one thing to be mistaken. It's another thing to lie. So now we're going to get to tax status. You're none of these. You are none of these unless you have filed nonprofit forms for your homeschool. Not if you're in a nonprofit, not if you run a nonprofit, not if you have a nonprofit that does something else. Nonprofit for your school. Pay taxes. You don't get any tax exemptions. Sorry. It stinks. It's life, people. Last, you have a variety of things to read, and I'll go through them real quick. It says, you understand that all private school affidavits are public documents and viewable by the public. The private school affidavit must be filed by persons, firms, associations, partnerships, or corporations offering or conducting full-time day school at the elementary or high school level for students between the ages of 6 and 18. Preschools should contact the Community Care Licensing Division of the California Department of Social Services, and it's got a contact. This is not a license or authorization to operate a private school. I am asked all the time about waiting for confirmation, waiting for authorization. They don't give it. The private school affidavit does not indicate approval, recognition, or endorsement by the state. Filing of this affidavit shall not be interpreted to mean, and it shall be unlawful for any school to expressly or impliedly represent by any means whatsoever that the state of California, the superintendent of public instruction, the state board of education, or the CDE, or any division therein, or any accrediting agency has made any evaluation. You cannot hold this out as some sort of state approval or the state saying how cool you are. I'm sure the state thinks you're cool. I think you're cool. Don't worry about it. But it's just being very clear. Private school authorities are responsible for initiating contact with the appropriate local authorities, city and or county, regarding compliance with ordinances governing health, safety, fire standards, business licensing, zoning requirements applied to private schools. This is one of those things that if you are running a business as even a PSSP, it's on you to make sure that you filed whatever you need to file with your state, county, district, whatever. And when I say that, I don't know of anything you'd have to file with your district, but I do know that if you're running a business in certain cities, certain counties, you need to file as a business and have an EIN and all that stuff, even if all you're doing is filing a private school affidavit. So business records, all that stuff's on you. The other parts that don't apply to this is health and safety concerns, fire standards, any of that, because you are homeschooling your own children. If you were taking in 30 kids into your home, there would be certain licensings that have to go with that. You need to retain a copy of this for 3 years. When a school ceases operation, every effort will be made to give a copy of the public pupils' permanent records to the parents or guardians. If you can't give it, it's recommended that you retain some sort of record permanently. So in other words, if you're running a real private school, you can't fold up and go home and nobody ever finds you again. So your kids can't prove that they attended your school. In reality, my school will cease an operation and I will just keep their transcripts in a file drawer, as I've done for the kids I've already graduated. Let's keep going through this. Keep it for 3 years. A private school shall not employ a person who's been convicted of a violent or serious felony, or a person who would be prohibited from employment at a public school. And pursuant to, and it gives you an education code there. And it's in compliance with that code to the extent that it applies. This is one of those things that I once again remind you, I'm not giving you legal advice, but you are not employing parents. I have gotten asked if a felon cannot homeschool their kid. And as far as everything I've read, you're not being employed, so you can home educate your student. When it comes to offering other classes or doing any kind of paid work elsewhere, that's not with your homeschool, and that is not under the purview of this affidavit, but I wouldn't advise it. The students enrolled in private school and included in the school's enrollment total are full-time students in this school and are not enrolled in any other public or private elementary or secondary school on a full-time basis. So here's a couple of these caveats. What that means is you filed your PSA and claimed your student on there. They should not still be enrolled in a public school. I always say I do this at the same time. File your PSA one night, pull your kid out the next day. Because you are legally saying these kids don't go to school anywhere else. I've had people come to me going, oh, I filed that 2 months ago, but now I want to pull my kids out. And it's like, no, you said. Separately, you have children who are dual enrolled, like my children, and they are dual enrolled in a college. Eunice College isn't listed on there. They are my full-time students, and they are getting high school credit, but they are not dual enrolled in another grade school. They're just in a college, and they've got I think it's called like a special acceptance or something like that. They're not normal. So you read through all of these, make sure you understand them, and you're assuring that you are going to be complying with these items. Now we are to the last page of typing. You're going to put in all of your information because you are the owner or other head of school. So basically, I'm the administrator. My husband owns it. I own it. The kids don't own it. It doesn't mean anything else. It means basically you're the responsible party that if there are issues, they're coming to you. Now, this is real low key. There are not going to be any issues. Don't worry. Put your name in. Put your title. I always put administrator, your email, your security question. So here's the thing. Your security question does not need to match year after year. So don't worry about going, what did I put as my security question? I don't remember. Pick a new security question. Make sure you're putting information that you would know if you ever needed to access this. I have emailed the private school department for doing videos. I've never had to give anyone this security question. So make sure it's true. So if you ever need an answer, you have it. But don't worry about what you did last year. It's fine. And then you hit review. Then it's going to give you all the information you've typed in. Read it. Make sure your address is right. Make sure all the information's right. Then submit it. Then it will give you a confirmation page. You need to print that. And it's basically all the information you've just entered. And you keep that in your file drawer for 3 years. Or longer if you're me, because I have quite a few. And that's it. Easy peasy. It took me 20 minutes to film this video explaining every step. It is that quick that this is all you have to do. And now you are filed as a private school in the state of California. Congratulations. If you still have questions or you're like, okay, but I really want her sitting there in case I have a question on a word, please make sure you check out my live streams below. The dates and the sign-up forms. It's $10. It's not a lot. But if you're doing it after this, you can always get private homeschool coaching. I can help you walk through anything else in your homeschool. And that's it. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with the world. And I will talk to you all later. Bye.